Hello, Troy A. Shadowingtronics, once again taking part in the Art Soundoff challenge. And something I think I just feel an urge to stress, and I think I may have talked about it this month. I don't know, the problem is everything kind of blurs, so sometimes I don't remember what I said this month, what I said last month. There are times that I could have sworn I reviewed something. I go digging through the archives of my website, and find nothing. Even the one this year where I talked about retcons, I could have sworn I did that art sound off. And because frankly, the retcon is something really interesting to talk about. It's how it could be used and how it could be misused. But I don't know if I've really stressed it the way I'm going to here. That's if I remember everything. You know how I am without scripts. But I see so many really great ideas ruined by trying to be shoved into a franchise it doesn't work in, and characters being shoved into a story they don't fit. Here's the thing: when you take on, like I said before, when you take on a franchise, you take on that fan base, you take on that history, you take on every previous installment, and if it doesn't match up, those fans are not going to be happy with you, and you end up losing those fans. If you don't collect enough new fans, your show is going to be looked at as a lesser product, lesser entry in the franchise. There are a lot of really great ideas that, when you look at them, they're so different from the original source material that they might as well be an original source material. And I think if they did that, you'd end up getting more of an audience. Here's the thing: there are, like I said, when you take on a franchise, you take on, its fans and everything. When you take on a genre, you also take on the fans and the fans of those genres, and they create new subgenres, quite often, and even within those subgenres, there are still fans. The thing is, there are bigger fans of a genre or a subgenre than there are of a franchise. Not every every science fiction fan is into Star Wars. In the same vein, not every Star Wars fan is normally into science fiction. But Star Wars does something different. So, I wish that I can point to a bunch of ideas that really should have been their own property, and I think it's a case of they couldn't get their work out there any other way, or they like the name because it's popular, but they didn't like anything else about it, and so they just slapped it onto something else. That's the case with Todd Phillips' Joker, and I believe that's the case with Star Wars Star Trek, or the current Star Trek, because Les Moonves hated Star Trek. He really didn't want it to come back, and he was basically forced to bring it back, but he would bring it back his way. And I can also yell at. Sorry, I'm just looking at the screen here and looks. Okay, sorry, I got distracted. Kevin Sorbo kind of took what was working on Earth's Final Conflict out because he didn't like it, and I've seen that happen in so many different genres and so many works of fiction. That's what happened with the DC Universe and Dan DiDio. It's what happened to Transformers Beast Machines and Dan DiDio. Somebody should have noticed a pattern. Somebody should have been warned. But I wish people would take some of these unique ideas and just make their own thing. It doesn't matter if it's derivative of something else. I've read a whole bunch of comics that seem to be derivative of other things, but without actually being that other thing. This way I can completely separate this show from that show, this comic from that comic, and completely enjoy it, because it's not part of that continuity. When you try to shove it into that continuity, I expect something from it that I'm not going to get, and it's immediately going to convince me to reject it. And we can make so many more new ideas, so many great IPs, so many different things. There are going to be ones that'll be around forever, but they started somewhere. They at some point they didn't exist, and I don't think that there's some kind of overload where there's too many properties that you can't create a new property and let it become a favorite. I mean, it's happened. Whether or not it's long standing depends on the fan base, depends on the creators. I mean, Star Trek lasted 3 seasons and was canceled. It only picked up its audience in syndication, and that led to the animated series, and that led to the movies, and the comics were going on, the novels were going on, and it led to to Next Generation and everything else. But if the fans, if it not picked up fans in syndication, Star Trek would have been a 3-season series that some people remember and maybe check out now and then. So it would basically be the time tunnel. And, people remember the time tunnel. I don't think there's a strong enough fan base for time tunnel to do a revival series. And even I can imagine how they'd screw that up. But the thing is, these things became popular because of a strong fan base. But the fan base didn't exist until the show existed. So a fan base for your comic is not going to exist until your comic exists. And maybe it gets a cult following. Maybe it gets a large following. Maybe it gets no following at all. But if your idea doesn't fit in something else, you're not going to be able to reach as many people as you would like if you put it in original property. You put it in original property, you get the fans who didn't like the first property. You do your own, sci-fi travels exploration series. People who don't like Star Trek may come check this out. People who like Star Trek may still come check this out because we are fans of more than one thing. I am a fan of a whole ton of things, all sorts of genres, all sorts of shows. I mean, my video collection is filled with all different kinds of franchises, all different kinds of perspectives. Giant robots, giant monsters, stuff without giant robots, Christmas specials, there's kind of the theme of science fiction and superheroes, but that's basically my jam. But for the most part, there is enough variety that a lot of things approach these subjects in different ways, and I find those fascinating. So why do you have to create, if you don't understand that story, or even if you understand that story, but your particular tale in that series doesn't fit, save it for something else. Make something interesting. Make something hard. Build on the universe. Create new franchises. Create new characters. There are always going to be people who will log on to it. And if enough people find it and enough people get into it, then you're going to become a beloved franchise in your own right. Maybe you're not as big as Star Wars, but you may still make something that has a popular following. Otherwise, what you end up doing is dividing a fandom, creating a franchise, creating an entry in a franchise that just doesn't match up, and the end result is you actually get up with a less popular product than you could have had as an original idea. Have faith in your. I think that's something I'm starting to stress more and more now. Is have faith in your ideas as a standalone product. If you want to continue, if you really do want to continue a series for whatever reason, then I'm all in favor for it. Especially if it's a series I like. Especially if you can understand what makes a series work, whether you yourself are a fan or not. Harv Bennett didn't know Star Trek. He researched it, and he ended up directing probably considered the best of the Star Trek movies, Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan. He didn't know anything about Star Trek before then. He didn't know who Khan Noonien Singh was. Heck, I never even saw the episode until sometime after I saw Star Trek II. And I was a Star Trek fan. So I just somehow kept missing that episode until sometime after the movie came out. And that's because they showed the episode to promote the movie. They made the local channels would make a special showing of it in order to help promote the movie and to, build off the hype of the movie. Say, here, we have Star Trek over here. Here's the episode that they're making that movie on. And he didn't know much about it. Mel Brooks not a science fiction fan. Spaceballs is amazing because he may not be a fan, but he cared enough about the material that he was working with to make a loving and honest parody, unlike some of the parodies they make nowadays. So if I think I've been stressing, have faith in your work, have faith in an original property, because that's how you get a bigger audience. You'll get the audience from that franchise, and you'll get the audience from people who are into that franchise. But otherwise, you're basically just shoving the fans of that franchise out, and if you don't place them with enough people, your stuff isn't going to be nearly as well. You're going to cause problems. You're going to divide a fandom that you didn't need to, because you just need to have faith in yourself and in the ideas you created. And that's basically what it boils down to, is believe in your ideas. If you don't believe in your ideas, why the heck should I? Hopefully somewhere within these art sound-offs I'm making a good point that people find interesting and can work with. But if you want to check out more of my ramblings in these areas, check out bwspotlight.com. And if you want to find out more about Art Soundoff, check out artsoundoff.com. So I'll see you tomorrow for another Art Soundoff. I believe that'll be the Friday Art Soundoff, which means I should have something interesting for next week, which I will try to tease. We'll see how the software works. And until then, I wish you all happy creating.